Hi, I'm Danica Tormohlen, VP of Group Content for the Meetings, Travel, and Sports Division at InformaConnect. And we are joined today by Nick Dugdale-Moore, who is the Regional Director of UFI in the European region. And we have been going around the globe with UFI to highlight some of the different regions and the work they're doing. And we are especially excited to talk to Nick today because they just completed their regional conference last week in Zurich. And so we wanted to find out all about it and then also just get some idea about what's trending in the European market. So welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Danica. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Good to see you. I wish I could have been in Zurich coming off of the event. Tell us a little bit about it.
This is our annual European conference. So just very quickly, our events at the beginning of the year, we typically have a CEO summit for 100 CEOs in Europe. Then we have our regional conferences. So we were in Macau for APAC, then in Rwanda for the Middle East Africa. My turn was next. We were in Zurich. Then we have Monterrey for the Americas in September, and finishing up with the Global Congress, which this year is also in Europe. So this was our European event. It's now, I'm happy to say, this year will be our second largest event. We had about 300 delegates, which is as big as this event's ever been, from 41 countries and markets. And actually, almost half of those were outside Europe. So it is obviously a predominantly European market, but we did have delegates from the States, South America, Middle East, and Asia. The post-event blues is sort of past, and I think the team can be pretty proud on a good job done. Look, I always say it's the people that make the event, right? And the same with UFI. Our events are the heartbeat of our association, and it was a really good crowd, so much positive energy, and they're there to meet each other, really. They're all experts. But on the stage, the content, which is, after all, the second most important reason they come. We're waiting for the official results, but I'd like to think we did a good job there. We've certainly had good feedback so far. We tried something a little bit different in terms of the format. So we publish every January 5 trends for the industry, what we think will be governing the industry in the year ahead. And we picked up on these themes for the conference. So the 5 themes are: focus on the customer, AI, of course, which is the hot topic, industry consolidation and new players. There's obviously been quite a bit of action in that regard, reinforcing our identity because we have a bit of an identity crisis, and climate. So these 5 trends, each of them had a main stage session, which again was quite short, but had an external speaker. Quite often in our industry, we have just industry speakers, and each of them was opened up by an external speaker. And then following the main stage session, we had a sort of breakout. So everybody got to work together in smaller groups and chat about it. So that seemed to work well, which was great. We debuted several different technologies. We have the event app, which everybody has, of course, but we had these sort of AI transcripts, which was immediately fed back, almost immediate, back through the app. We have our photo tool, which immediately people, if you download a selfie, it gives you all of your the photos from the photographers immediately. And you were saying that the FOMO, you need people to have their pictures immediately. And also we tried a new speed matchmaking tool, which worked really well, which I was quite pleased with, because we've been doing that for a couple of years with this event. It's tricky to get the format right live, and I think we knocked it out of the park. So yeah, all in all, we had the usual, very nice time, lovely welcome from our hosts in Zurich. But we also, the usual UFI surprises. We took several people to Art Basel, neighbouring Basel. We had some foot volley, which is beach volleyball with no hands. And we successfully reprised our Event Directors Summit, which is where we get show directors of some of Europe's leading brands together for a day for a closed workshop. All in all, it was quite a busy week, but fingers crossed and touch some wood. It went well.
Congratulations on that. I want to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned. First of all, the people in the room. So talk a little bit about some of the people who were in the room. Give our audience some idea of the caliber and quality of attendees in the room for those conversations, because I think it is a key highlight for this event.
Well, I mean, so first of all, if you go to ufieurope.org, the website's still live and the participant list is still live. So until we launch next year's event, but you can see we're very fortunate in UFI to have a very senior audience, without the figures to hand, but a significant portion of C-level executives from many of the major European organizers and venues. Obviously, here in the UK, I'm in London, there's a sort of division between the organizers and the venues, much like in the States. But obviously in Germany, in Spain and Italy, it's a sort of blended model. So across Europe, but also as far afield as sort of Australia and Bolivia and other places.
So all the major show organizers in Europe and venues as well. Also, you mentioned the education, and I thought it was interesting. I have talked to Kai and then also some of the other regional directors, and it does seem like UFI is making a concerted effort this year to bring in some external speakers, not necessarily just the industry leaders to speak about things that they're doing, but also best practices that our industry can take away from other industries. And it sounds like that was the case here again, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very briefly, so the AI segment there's a lady, she's a PhD at the University of Lausanne. For the reinforcing our identity, we had a chap who's actually head of delivering the event for the Olympics. So quite a busy guy this year, because obviously actually when the Olympics, you think it's all great, but like if you can imagine the host city, there's a lot of tension with the host city. So they're actually having to sort of constantly sell the benefits and manage those tensions. And he actually came from our industry, used to be the Cybos, used to be the Swift, so managed the large event Cybos. Who else? So for the industry consolidation, we had a lady from the fintech industry in Switzerland. Again, for the climate change, we had a chap from the World Tourism and Travel Council. So again, these are industry experts. Not forgetting perhaps the most interesting, which is for the customer focus, we had an exhibitor. So this is a chap who heads up about 200 exhibits every year for S&P Global, Standard & Poor's, who had some pretty hard truths for the organizers in the room. But at the end of the day, if we want to progress, if we want to keep our product and our platforms moving forward, we have to speak more with our customers at the end of the day, which, I go to a lot of industry events, as do you, and often it's just sort of us talking with each other. So yeah, I mean, hopefully the content was pretty good. Any UFI members watching, all the recordings and presentations are now live in the members area. You know what to do.
Excellent. Excellent. That's helpful. So a good resource if you want to know who was at the event, the attendee list is available on their website. I'll include a link to that in our show notes. And I do love it when industry events include exhibitor speakers, our customers speaking. So that sounds like a good one that I might have to jump on there and watch the recording of that, because I don't think it happens often enough, listening to our key customers, which are the exhibitors. So love the tech that you deployed, AI translation. That's pretty innovative. I'm assuming transcripts, like I'm recording our transcript right now, and it's popping up immediately. And so attendees had access to the content from the sessions.
Yeah, so it wasn't a full transcript. I mean, I guess they have that available. What we had was, it's obviously transcribing it and then into ChatGPT or some other generative AI and immediately giving you back the highlights. So actually, rather than just the whole thing, you had the sort of key takeaways. And yeah, it was just, we integrated it with our app. We work with Event Maker, who are amazing. So I don't know if you can see there, just the little button in the middle, key content highlights, and everybody just gets the key takeaways, and there was a sort of different formats you can access it. And we've already got a report that, again, isn't the transcription of all of the sessions, but it's the sort of a report of all the highlights that went out with our sort of post-event email on Monday or Tuesday.
The summary, yeah, which is actually probably more usable for an attendee, or at least if they want to delve deeper, they can back at something, they can look at it. I also do love the photos that get sent to you immediately via Wi-Fi, the tagging systems. I've had that at a couple of events, and it is extremely nice, and it does definitely create even more FOMO because they're really nice professional photos. I want to also, let's talk about Zurich. Tell me about the destination, what the venue is like. I know that you always do an interesting post-show city tour. which is always a big highlight of the event. Great networking. Not only do you get to see the destination, feel like you've been in the destination, get a little bit of history, a little bit of culture, but it's also a great opportunity to network in a different environment than meetings or the receptions, etc. So tell us about the destination.
Look, Zurich is as beautiful as you imagine in the pictures. The old historic center is by the lake and the various rivers running off. So where the Messe is based, the exhibition center is a place called Oerlikon. It's like the sort of buzzing business district. It's owned and operated by MCH Basel, who your readers and listeners might be aware of. And it's quite a small venue, but super compact and really easy to navigate for an event. And we were the only client in the event in the building at the time. So minimal signage, nobody got lost. That was all quite easy. I guess what was tricky and also a benefit at the same time was the hotels were rather spread out. We were in 5 official hotels and a tram ride away, but the Zurich Convention Bureau gave all of us a free travel pass that was printed on the badges. So maybe 10 years ago that would have been difficult, but people embraced it. We all know that mobility and sustainability is a key topic, and especially for our Swiss hosts. So that was interesting. You mentioned the tours. So the tours, we had a historic tour of Zurich on the last day, or a tour of the Lindt factory, which is sort of real life Willy Wonka. Our hosts were great, really hospitable, and showing off Zurich. Finally, the sun shone, so we saw Zurich at its finest. The only thing I would say is I think it is the most expensive city in the world.
I did not realize that. So I'm curious, how long have you been in your position there at UFI?
In my position, I think since 2019, so
Okay.
not that long. Well, relatively 5 years. But before that, I was with UFI since 2011. I was the business development director, and then also set up the Latin American chapter. So used to visit your part of the world, if a little bit further south.
So you're in market in Europe, and you focus specifically on exhibitions in that region. So you talked about the 5 trends that are top of mind in 2024 for the industry, but what are some of the key things that are standing out in the European market to you right now? What are your members and constituents talking about, and what's trending?
Well, I guess just to set the picture a little bit, obviously last year was the first sort of decent year operating since the pandemic. We have our sort of flagship research, which is every 6 months, the Global Barometer. We published in early this year, I think it's the I don't want to get it wrong, 33rd edition. And we track, so this is looking forward for the next 6 months for turnover. And globally, the picture is pretty good. It's 115% of 2019 revenues. But in Europe, actually, we're 126%. So Europe is punching ahead of the global average. And it was the emerging markets that were doing particularly well, Middle East and South America, whereas I think North America was 112, so a little bit below the global average, and Asia Pacific 106. So relative to the rest of the world, Europe is projecting to have a very good 2024. Within Europe, there are some differences, of course. The best performing, which might surprise some people, was Greece, with 151% of 2019 revenues, which is second globally only to India. And then Spain with, I think it was 136. So really performing really well. While others, I guess the more mature markets, UK, Italy, France, around the average. And actually, Germany was the one notable one, I guess, heading up the rear, and it would take the longest for them to recover. Still feeling various effects. We have ongoing challenges in Europe, supply chain issues, energy issues. There's obviously 2 now major conflicts within our borders. So yeah, it's tricky, but at the same time, incredibly positive. Look, more and more shows are reporting sort of record numbers back to and surpassing 2019. I think nobody doubts the value or the purpose of trade shows anymore. We all understand it better than ever. So yeah, it's really positive. It's really optimistic. The famous buzz on the trade shows is definitely back.
Thank you for that highlight of the region, because you know it so well. And I didn't realize that Greece and Spain were so far ahead, and that Europe in general was ahead. So that's great. And that barometer, it's going to be updated soon, right? In the summer, it will have a new one out.
Yeah, we're working on it now, typically July. So I don't know the exact date, but in the coming month, then the next one should be out.
So that's a really helpful tool for any of our listeners. I'll include a link to that barometer in our show notes as well. And we will be highlighting the new research as soon as it is available. And it is usually July. So I'm assuming it will be July again. So finally, what is next on your calendar? What are you going to be working on? Talk about some of your events. You have dates for 2025 yet?
We do in Europe. So next year's a big year for us. UFI is celebrating our 100th anniversary. That's a really special year. And we are going the European event. We are going to Thessaloniki on the beach of Greece. So are you coming, Danica, or what?
I'm going to lobby for that hard.
Yeah, you should. So Thessaloniki have a long-standing relationship with UFI. They joined in, I think, 1928. They hosted our Congress in 1952, 1972, this European event in 2008. The Thessaloniki International Fair is one of the most famous old-standing fairs in Europe. So we're really happy to be going there. It's going to be great. I definitely get to finally do stand-up paddleboarding as an official event. So please mark your calendars. Before that, obviously, we're coming up to the summer when people disappear in Europe. Next week, I'm going back to Maastricht, which is where we had this event last year. And we set up a sort of program with one of the local universities, Zoid, and they had their minor event management students. We set them a challenge, and I went with an organizer, a venue, and a supplier, and we presented the industry to them, and then gave them like an hour to design an exhibition and come back and pitch it to us, sort of Shark Tank style, and they were amazing. So this year, the university they loved it. They've done it again and expanded on it. So these students went to a conference at MEC in Maastricht. They went to Cybersec, which is a Jabers show in Brussels. And then next week I'm going back, and again, there's a few of us, they're going to pitch to us again. So they're really excited. The future's bright when you see these students and what they're capable of. We would do well to listen to them.
Exciting. And then you must be happy that the Global Congress is going to be in Europe this year as well.
Absolutely. Look, Cologne, they're celebrating their 100th anniversary as well. So a really important milestone for Cologne. It's a beautiful city. Am I allowed to say it's one of my favorite German cities? I'm not sure. They're all my favorite, but Cologne is especially favorite.
Why is that? Why is that?
It's quite fun. I mean, it has the sort of carnival history. No, but I mean, beautiful buildings, Cologne Cathedral's, incredible, and the trade show is in quite a convenient location. So no, really looking forward to it.
Because I haven't been, and I'm hoping to go. So.
Well, I'd be very disappointed if you weren't there. We expect, I'm not sure how many, 500 to 600 from how many 50 plus countries. It's very well connected, very easy to get to, whether in the States or anywhere else. Certainly, if you want to come to meet the global trade show community, to increase your network, to explore new business opportunities, November, where else are you going to be except in Cologne?
Excellent. So I hope to see you there, Nick. I really appreciate your time today, and thank you for sharing your insights on the exhibition industry and the market in Europe. So thanks.
My pleasure.